Welcome to this second video in the Diaconate Offices series entitled Meet Your Neighbor. In these videos, we are exploring with the Chicago Diaconate who we are, asking if we know each other, and probing whether there is something in our community that might be a resource for ourselves and others to address the racial and ethnic division that surfaces too often in our country and elsewhere. Finally, the purpose of this video series is simply that we get to know each other. Now, in this series, we're making very modest claims about the purposes and what we aim to achieve. The videos, frankly, are not fixing anything. There are no solutions to racial and ethnic divisions that you will find here. There are no policy prescriptions, no politics, no suggested methods of reform. Rather, we are only at the beginning, at step one of a four-step method of theological reflection that was explained more fully in the first video. Check out that earlier video for this overview of these four steps, and I'll give you the link in the comments below. Now, simply put, what we are doing is we're telling our stories to each other. And we do this with the knowledge that this is not simply a feel-good, idle pastime. Rather, there is theological heft to this. There is, for instance, something known as story theology, whereby we undertake to see the presence of God as our lives are lived out. There is an interest in an individual's particular encounter with God. Your story might be different from mine, but we each do have our eyes raised upward to try to know what God is speaking to us. And when we discover that commonality, we discover that we are each sons and daughters of the same Father. There is also a practical process of coming to know each other in how we live by what we've experienced. When I discover how your experiences and mine are similar, there is less that I need to fear about you. And I use that word fear cognizant of a presentation Dr. Martin Luther King gave about 60 years ago when he was visiting Cornell College in Iowa. His remarks were preserved, and among his words that evening were the following. He said, "I am convinced that men hate each other because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. And they don't know each other because they don't communicate with each other. And they don't communicate with each other because they are separated from each other. And God grant that something will happen to open channels of communication." That was Dr. Martin Luther King. May we take one more step in getting to know each other, to know our neighbor. And the neighbor to meet in this video is Deacon Jess Blanco. As with the first video's interview of Deacon Jim Norman, I've tried to edit out some of the pauses and fumbles so as to keep the conversation moving for you. I ask you to watch this engaging bit of history from Deacon Blanco, a Mexican-American who grew up speaking Spanish in the home, but English elsewhere. And after that, I will come back for a few brief words at the end. So if you would, let's watch this together. Welcome, Jess Blanco.
Thank you.
And this is part of the series of conversations. Let me adjust my camera, make sure. Can you see my full splendor face?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, I can.
We don't want to short anybody on that. Just kidding. So, who are you? And tell me something about yourself, about your family.
Okay. Well, I'm 68 years old. I've been married for 48 years, grandfather of 6, father of 3. I've been a deacon since November of the year 2000. I was born in Mexico, but at the age of 3, my family moved to Chicago. So I was raised here in Chicago.
Whereabouts in Mexico?
Piedras Negras is the name of the city. Coahuila is the name of the state. It borders on the Texas, it borders with Texas.
Okay.
Yes. So it's a border town that I was born in. I'm retired. I've been retired since 2015. I worked for a company named Griffith Laboratories for 44 years. I was drafted in the year 1972, July, 19 years old, 2 years in the Army. And then, and I think I met Jesus when I was 30 years old. So it's like 38 years ago that I've been serving the church and the Lord.
Okay. Where did you serve in the military?
I served in different places. I did my basic training in Louisiana, Fort Polk, Louisiana. I did my training as a clerk typist in Kentucky, Fort Knox, Kentucky. Then I was stationed for 13.
You didn't get any samples. You know, everybody. You say Fort Knox, everybody wants to know.
Yeah, no samples.
Never mind.
No.
Forget
Yes.
I said that.
That's okay. I served 13 months in South Korea. And then I served 6 months at Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
So in those 2 years, I was all over in South Korea and then all over the United States.
Okay.
It was fantastic.
Well, good. That's interesting. I never had the pleasure. We are the same age, and my draft number was, if you remember back in the day, there was the lottery for the draft. And so my draft number was 359. So golly gee, I never had the opportunity. Although of course I could have volunteered, but I had other plans. So thank you for your service. That's what we say these days, and truly. Now, you born in Mexico, came to the United States at the age of 3, and if you told me I wasn't listening, where did you end up coming into the United States?
Chicago.
Okay, and then you grew up in Chicago.
Yes, sir.
What parts?
Okay, I grew up in a great part of town. I don't know the name of the neighborhood, but it's on Ogden, Chicago, and Milwaukee.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like northeast part of the city, and it was multicultural, Black, Asian, Latino, and so then I had a great education there.
Where did you go?
I went to a grammar school named Carpenter Grammar School. I went there for kindergarten, and that's where I became Jesse, because my name is Jesus. But when my mom went to register for me for kindergarten, the clerks, they saw Jesus. They didn't see Jesus, and they thought, well, we can't.
Name's already taken. That name's taken.
Yeah. So they translated it to Jesse, and I liked it, and so then I just kept it in school. But everything else, as you know, my records, I'm Jesus. I feel comfortable with Jesus or with Jesse. Yes. And the way that we grew up, Richard, was that in the home, we were Mexican, spoke Spanish, ate Mexican food. We learned about Mexico. We would go every year to Mexico to vacation with our grandparents. But once my sisters and I walked out of the house, we were American, spoke English, did the American thing. So that is kind of like the environment that I grew up in.
Now, let me ask that. Is that, I guess there's a couple of perspectives. One is from your parents' perspective as to, are the kids losing their heritage, and also maybe from your perspective, and I'm pretending I'm a psychoanalyst, but you're speaking Spanish at home, but English out on the street. Did that present any kind of head issues, like, oh, I'm betraying mom and dad? Any thought of that?
Yes, but no, I did not have those issues. One of the reasons is because the town that I was born in, right on the border, Texas is just across the bridge. So the Mexicans were already Americanized, and the people on the Texas side were kind of Mexicanized, right? So it was not an issue. Personally, I felt that I was blessed that I lived within two cultures, and that I could easily go in and out of these two cultures without any problems. And no, my parents never, put that on us that we're losing our culture, Mexican culture. No, that wasn't ever an issue with them.
Okay.
And then in school with the Pledge of Allegiance, the Founding Fathers, we just identified as Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And when I felt like it, I was a Mexican, and when I felt like it, I was an American.
Now, how about you? And you mentioned children and grandchildren. What role does your Mexican heritage play in passing on to the younger ones?
Yes. All right. So our three adult children, I would say they speak Spanish, but I would think that they're like more American, because I think that they're like here at home, Rita and I, we all spoke English, but our primary language was English when Rita and I were married and had our children. So they grew up maybe less Mexican than I did. And that was because, Rita and I, our primary language was really, really Spanish. So with me though, I took the Liderazgo Pastoral because when I met Enrique Alonso, he told me that if I want, I think maybe back up a little bit. When the Lord called me to serve, I felt that he called me to serve in the Hispanic community. So when I began Liderazgo Pastoral, or praying about it, Enrique, he encouraged me that it would be better for me to take the Spanish course. And I'm glad I did, because it was wonderful. Liderazgo Pastoral was something that blew me away, and I thank God that I took that course.
It takes longer than
And it was harder for me because I had to write in Spanish. And,
okay.
Yeah, things like that. So
that's good.
That improved my ministry.
Yeah. Rita, where does she hail from?
Yes, she was born in Texas, right across the river from where I was born.
Okay.
Her family and my family back down in Piedras, they knew each other, and that's how we met up here in Chicago through mutual friends.
Okay.
Rita grew up basically the same way that I did. At home, they were Mexican, and once they walked out the door, they were American.
Yeah, interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. Now, you said when you were 30, you met Jesus.
Yes.
What's that mean? What happened?
Yes. Well, I was at work, and a coworker brought a Bible to work, and I never. In 1973 is when Rita and I got married, and we got married at St. Sylvester's. But I wasn't going to Mass before that or even after that. So I was 20. I was 20 years old when we got married. So for about 10 years, I did not step into a church. Didn't think I needed the Lord. I was living the American thing here and the Mexican thing. But one day, a coworker brought a Bible, and I didn't ask him about it because I was afraid he'd tell me. Maybe give me a testimony of some kind. And I really wasn't in the mood for any of that. But that Bible sitting on his desk was like a magnet to my heart. And 3 days went by. He never opened it or talked about it, but I went and got it. And I read the Gospel of John, chapter 1, the prologue. And Richard, I fell in love right there. Really? It just went into my heart. For the first time in my life, I saw myself as a sinner, and I began to cry. So my friend, his name is Larval Bailey, he asked me, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yes, I'm good." But that was my experience. So I met Jesus in the gospel, in the word, And then I wanted to know everything about the Lord. And that Sunday, I accompanied Rita to Mass because our oldest daughter was in 2nd grade at St. Roman School Church, and she was getting ready for her first communion. So Rita was taking her to Mass without me. I was watching the Bears at noontime on a Sunday. And but that particular Wednesday I came home.
What year was that you were watching the Bears? Because that may make a difference. You may be excused. If it was 85.
It was before 85.
Okay,
Well,
so
it was way before 85.
So they were losers.
Yeah, they were losing.
Okay.
But I'm a Chicago guy, so yes. This is when they would win like maybe 1 or 2 ball games a season.
All right.
So I went with Rita to Mass that first Sunday, and I said, I put on a suit. I didn't know that people wore shorts and T-shirts to Mass, but I got myself dressed up along with Rita, and then I found myself at home, and then that took off where I became a lector a little bit later, and then I became active in the parish.
Okay. Now I want to ask, and then the rest is history, because now you're ordained and serving since, what would you say,
2000, the year 2000,
okay.
November.
Okay. A couple of questions. One is that three. We've got various words out there to describe people who generally speak Spanish. We've got Hispanic, we've got Latino, and I recall years ago, really decades, and maybe this is a California thing and Cesar Chavez and all that, but there was the word Chicano.
Yes.
What's the word today? I mean, and I don't mean to deprecate people's choice of their own identity, but you don't hear Chicano.
No.
Hispanic, Latino, is there a difference?
Not to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Does the, and as I'll make clear elsewhere in the video, you're not here as the representative of all Spanish speaking deacons. You're here as Jesse Blanco.
That is correct.
Who happens to be born in Mexico and raised in the United States. So this is your perspective. But let me ask Jesse Blanco, growing up in the city of Chicago as a Mexican American, did that cultural identity impact you going through like K through 12, kindergarten through high school? I mean, did that make a difference to you?
That's a hard question to answer, Richard, because it made a positive attitude in me that where I felt blessed that I was an American and a Mexican at the same time. Mm-hmm. That's how I processed it. And at one point, as I was, like all young people, finding their own identity, and that was part of it, I realized that I was a child of God. That came from my parents. I think that my parents were worried about racism and discrimination. And so our parents, as a young boy, they would tell us that we were all the same and that no one was better than other people. Though I do have something interesting to tell you as just an innocent little boy. Let's say back in the late 50s, when growing up in Chicago here, there were not that many Mexicans in the city of Chicago. There were more Puerto Rican, Cuban people. So I had this thing in my head that I represent, if people saw, let's say white people at a shopping mall, saw me, that I represented the Mexicans. So it was important that I behave, act polite, dress nicely, because if they saw me, then I reflected all of the Mexicans. I think I thought about this I felt this way for a few years until I realized, oh no, this is not me. I don't represent anyone other than myself. But as a little boy, that's how I thought. because there were not that many Hispanic or Mexicans in our neighborhood. So it all reflected on me.
But you know, there may be wisdom, you know, from the mouth of babes is wisdom, because, you know, if a white or Anglo is stereotyping, they're going to see, oh, look at that kid, you know, he's misbehaving. They're all that way, you know. So
Yes.
no, I can.
And now I'm an ambassador for Christ.
Yeah, well, that is where we. True enough. I mean, that's where we won't go wrong, when we act out of being the child of God and not, you know, the child of whatever country.
Yes.
So that's a bigger. Now going on through life, following you know, education, high school, and other experiences that you as a Mexican, Hispanic, is affected in a way that maybe it wasn't for me as a south side of Chicago Irish German. Does your ethnicity, did that affect your adult life?
No.
No.
No. I really didn't go through life with racism upon me from others, though 2 times in basic training that I really can't tell you, because it was I was discriminated by 2 different people. One was a white guy, and the other one was a black guy. But I can't really tell you about that, because it required fighting, you know, like this. Mm-hmm. That's how I took care of it, and there was no more problem after that. One of them, I guess I could tell you, for some reason, because I was the only Hispanic in my company of 150 young guys that we were all born on August 21st because of that lottery. It was really, really beautiful and strange at the same time, in that we were all different, but we were the same. And I can only attribute that to, we were born on August 21st. This one young guy, for some reason, began to say, "Blanco, you Mexican." And so I just said the F word to him. It was the first time in my life that I was out in the world. I was a homebody, neighborhood guy, really didn't go too many places other than Mexico on vacation. So my father had told me that I would run into things like this out in the real world. So in basic training, the drill sergeants, they're like our parents in a way. They're gonna make you men, a fighting machine, but they were like our parents, and they hear everything and see everything. So they were aware that this dynamic was happening from this young guy. He might have said this maybe 2 times. "Blanco, you Mexican." And I used 4-letter words to get back at him. So we had a hand-to-hand drill on combat, hand-to-hand combat drill. And the drill sergeant picked him, and then he looked around, and I thought to myself, oh, I hope they pick me. And he picks me. I put a hurting on that guy, because I was athletic. I played sports all through high school and my youth. So I was athletically inclined, and he never said another word like that again ever to me. The other one was a black guy, and he said, may I tell you a little bit? He was a bully. He was the #1 athlete guy in our camp. I was maybe number 2 or number 3, but he was a bully type, and the lights were off, and we were all in bed, and we lived in these barracks, 2 floors, and he was laying there just bullying the rest of the guys, and no one was saying anything to him. So this is 1972, July, and he said, "And then there's Blanco over there, the Frito Bandito." Remember the Frito Bandito commercial? Well, I would have let that go, except that everybody laughed. Everybody laughed. And I thought, I can't let this go by. And I know he's bigger than me and all of this, but these are fighting words. So I called him a name, and I cannot say it, right? Well, he got out of bed, and he's, I'm gonna kill you, Blanco. I got out of bed. We were ready to do it, except that we all would have been in big trouble if I had had a black eye or he had had a black eye. So guys grabbed him and guys grabbed me. Thanks be to God they grabbed me.
Right, yeah. Stop me before I do something stupid.
Yes. And so then that also ended from him. And I seemed like I got respect from the guy that called me a Frito Bandito, same like the other guy that called me a Mexican. So those were just the only two in my whole lifetime. And it was just probably because we're all like 19, 20 years old. We didn't really want to be there. We thought we were still going to go to Nam. Maybe everybody was edgy. But other than that, I've never really experienced anything else in my life.
Okay, that's interesting. That's a blessing for you. That
Yes.
Okay. And so, what's your ministry today?
What's my ministry as far as
deacon? What are you doing today to serve the church?
Yes. Well, liturgy, evangelize. With teaching the school children at our parish.
Francis of Rome?
At St. Francis of Rome, yes. I serve the poor. I am the chaplain to our conference, St. Vincent de Paul Society, and then I'm also the chaplain for our district. And Westchester, your parish, is part of our district. And so then that's what I'm doing. And I'm still a dad and a grandfather and a husband, a neighbor here to the people around my house. Yes.
And do you still get down to Mexico to visit the extended family, or is that past?
That is kind of past. We were there last December 2019. My father-in-law passed away, and we went down there to bury him. He wanted to be buried in our hometown. But because of all of the violence out there in Mexico, we have not gone. The last time I was there was a couple of years ago to Chiapas. I went to Chiapas 2 years in a row when Father Carmelo was out there.
Okay.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
I was out there during a Holy Week both times.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I've seen some pictures. I know Javier Pineda has been down there.
Yes.
He was down there before you went down?
He was down there before me,
okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right. And Father Carmelo is back up here in Chicago.
Yes.
And there's a Divine Word missionary who's sort of taken things over down in Chiapas. So I've been in touch with him. So I guess let me bring this to a close and just ask you if there's something, our audience for this presumably is going to be the deacons and wives in the Archdiocese. And this first go around of the video is a conversation with 4 different deacons, 2 Black, 2 Hispanic. Is there something I should have asked that I didn't ask, or that's on your heart that you would want to share? There doesn't have to be anything, but I don't want to close off the conversation without giving you an opportunity to offer whatever might be on your heart.
Well, I think what's on my heart is that we have here in America, we have a spiritual problem. The need of a conversion, to love God and to love our neighbor. That's what we're lacking. That's what all of this is all about. And that's where the poverty comes from and all the other things that are happening. It's a spiritual problem. And, we pray, and the deacons, I think that, even we as deacons have this spiritual problem. Our church has it. It's in our church. And so then we need conversion.
Okay. That's fair enough. Fair enough. And that the answer to spiritual problems begins with spirituality, with prayer, with a relationship with our Lord. So, that's good insight. All right, I think that is, I've tortured you enough, and I'm going to compile this with some other videos. So Deacon Jesus Blanco, thank you very much for your time. Others call you Jesse. So God bless you, and thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Thank you, Richard. Have a great day.
Thank
Bye.
you. Right.
Well, thank you, Deacon Jesse. If I do say so myself, I thought that was interesting, as well as really being open and prayerful and frankly encouraging. I'm grateful that I was able to introduce you to Jesse and let you see some of the richness of experience that is in our community. Thank you, Deacon Jesse, for adding one more deposit to our fact-gathering mission. We've got 2 videos down now and at least 2 to go. So please stay tuned to this project, and I will get episode 3 out to you shortly. And thank you for watching. Certainly, if you have any questions about this project, suggestions, or queries about the videos, please reach out to me at the diaconate office. Your input is invaluable. In the meantime, may the God whom we all adore and worship hold you close and keep you in peace. Bless you all.